Is there a balm that can heal these wounds that last a lifetime long? And when the stars have burned to dust, hand in hand we still will stand, because we must. In one single hour, in one single day, we were changed forever, something taken away, and there is no fire that can melt this heavy stone, that can bring back the voices and the spirits of our own. There are no words, there is no song. Is there a balm that can heal these wounds that last a lifetime long? And when the stars have burned to dust, hand in hand we still will stand, because we must. We were forged in freedom, we were born in liberty. We came here to stop the twisted arrows cast by tyranny, and we won't bow down. We are strong at heart, we're a chain together that won't be pulled apart. There are no words, there is no song. Is there a balm that can heal these wounds that last a lifetime long? And when the stars have burned to dust, hand in hand we still will stand, because we must. There are no words, there is no song. Is there a balm that can heal these wounds that last a lifetime long? And when the stars have burned to dust, hand in hand we still will stand, because we must. There are no words, there is no song. Is there a balm that can heal these wounds that last a lifetime long? And when the stars have burned to dust, hand in hand we still will stand, because we must.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Eddie Aspa, and on behalf of the Shalom Club, I would like to thank you for attending our annual 9/11 memorial ceremony. For those who may be new to Sun City, this ceremony began in 2002, marking the year anniversary of that fatal morning. To honor those that perished and all who were affected by that tragedy, a Sun City resident, Marvin Pearlstein, designed, created, and dedicated the monument that stands in front of the Perrysburg Center. That was our beginning. I urge you to please take a moment to visit the special monument when you have a chance. There are flags placed around the base of it so that you will recognize it where it stands. A few moments ago, I met someone named Patty Smith, who was at the Pentagon, and I know that most people remember what happened in New York, but there was also the Pentagon in Shanksburg. And I was wondering if there were any other survivors here today or families of survivors who would like to stand and be recognized for a moment. If you do, please stand. Thank you all for coming, for being here with us. And if you would like to talk with me afterwards about maybe telling your stories at another time and another year, please come see me. Today I would like to thank, and we are honored to have with us Senator Tom Davis. Please stand and be recognized. The Mayor of Hardeeville, Harry Williams. Police Chief B.J. Tanner. And Solicitor Duffy Stone of the 14th Circuit. And we have 4 Jasper County Fire and Rescue personnel with us today, and I want to thank them all for coming. All of these people are very recognizable in Sun City. They are welcome, they're supportive, they're friendly faces for us. At this time, I would like to call upon Vice Commander John Estev, who would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And I ask all who can, please stand.
Good morning. Following the Pledge of Allegiance, I ask that you remain standing for our national anthem, the invocation, and the ringing of the memorial bells. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, Elizabeth Griziak with her beautiful voice.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
I would like to now call up. I would like to now introduce Sam Watkins, who will do our invocation. Sam is himself a retired firefighter and a 42-year responder with the American Red Cross.
I dare say there's no one here this morning who doesn't have vivid memories of that fateful day in 2001, 22 years ago. It is fitting as we begin this time together that we do so with prayer. Let us pray. Source of all being, today we gather to remember and also to give you thanks. We remember all of those who lost their lives that fateful day. Firefighters, police officers, EMS personnel, passers-by, people on planes, people working in buildings, simply innocent folks who were wandering around, and those who rushed toward danger, rushed into danger to help strangers who were in need. We pray for all families and friends of those who died and those who still grieve today for that loss. And we give you thanks. Thanks for their sacrifice. And ask that in some way you will empower us to learn from that. Teach us from that example. Empower us to step forward when there are those in need, to step forward and help those in distress. And be with us all, today and every day. And let us say, Amen.
I'm going to introduce a gentleman by the name of Dave Griffiths. I'm going to explain the bells. There are many different reasons to have the bells at the firehouse. A lot of them just let people, when they ring, they let people know that they're back from their call. But this particular bell is going to be called the striking of the 4 5s. These bells signify a fireman's last alarm. I now invite Dave Griffith, an active volunteer fireman for 63 years and former chief of the East Hampton, Long Island, New York Volunteer Fire Department, to take care of the bells for us. If you can, please remain standing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you.
If everyone would take a seat, please. Good morning. My name is Meyer Yaspa, and I have the pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Gary Hundermark, our keynote speaker. Gary is married to Zena with 2 children and 3 grandchildren. And Gary also has 2 children and 5 grandchildren from a previous marriage. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, served 2 years in the Army 82nd Airborne, lived 10 years in the Washington, D.C. area from 1967 to 1977, moved to New Jersey and lived there from 1977 until retirement in 2016. In 1995 to 2016, worked for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey as network architect and network project manager in New York City in the World Trade Center and New Jersey. In May of 2016, he retired from the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey and moved from Princeton, New Jersey to Sun City Hilton Head, where he and his wife Zena are active members in the community. And now Gary will relay his experience during the 9/11 attack at the World Trade Center. Gary.
Good morning. I thank you all for being here, and I thank you for keeping the memory alive. I'd also like to give a special thanks to the Shalom Club for hosting this commemoration, and a really special thank you to the Shalom Club for the installation of the 9/11 Memorial at Perrysburg Circle. I happened to see it on my very first visit to Sun City, and it meant a lot to me. 9/11 means a lot to me and my family. Never forget that 3,000 people died on 9/11 through terrorist attacks on our soil. Never forget that about 350 first responders lost their lives that day, and hundreds more continue to lose their lives due to the carcinogens that were in the air as part of the cleanup. I personally will never forget my 77 fellow Port Authority employees who lost their lives that day. For most of us, there are 2 times in our lives that we remember where we were when it happened. The first one was November 22nd, 1963, the assassination of JFK. I happened to be in a barber chair in Fort Dix, New Jersey, in basic training. The second one is September 11th, or 9/11, 2001, when the planes hit the World Trade Center, and I was on the 71st floor of Tower 1, the first tower that was hit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spend the time and tell you about my day and how it affected myself and my family. Got up normally at about 5 o'clock in the morning, normal day at work, showered, shaved, got dressed, had a cup of coffee and a cigarette, and then woke my wife up to drive me 3/4 of a mile to Princeton Junction train station. The reason I woke her up is because she always wanted to get up. I could walk the distance, but she always wanted to get up to get our 2 children ready for school, and that was her wake-up call. I took the 6:05 train from Princeton Junction to Newark. It was the first express train of the day. It's about a 35-minute ride, and then from there you switched over to the path, the Port Authority Trans-Hudson train, which took you from Newark to the base of the World Trade Center. Go upstairs, pass by the coffee shop, get myself a cup of coffee, get on an express elevator that takes you from the first floor to the 44th floor, and then get on a local elevator which took you from the 44th floor up to the 71st floor and into my office. Most people don't start that early, but I like to. At 8:30 in the morning, I have my staff meeting. My staff consisted of 2 employees and 7 consultants. And I worked in the technology services department and did a lot of the work at all the facilities of the Port Authority. It's a pretty large organization. We were just talking about, in the meeting, we were talking about the events of what had happened the previous day. There was a fire at Newark Airport that was going to impact our work at a major operations control center for the police. About that time, all of a sudden, wham! A plane hit, we didn't know what it was at the time, above my head. I was facing south, and the plane came in this way. The building lurched, and I mean lurched, so much that one of my employees who had been standing at the time got knocked off her feet. That wasn't the worst of it. And by the way, there was no explosion. It was just a loud whamp. About that time, all of a sudden, the building, which was designed to sway, started swaying back. And it swayed back to the center and then kept on going. A few of my staff screamed out, "It's going over!" I instinctively grabbed onto the conference table because I felt it was going over as well. And then all of a sudden, the building just shuddered. My staff started, panicking and said, "What was that?" And I said, and I'm quoted, "I don't know what it was, but I suggest we all get the expletive out of here," and told them all to go to the emergency staircases. I went back to my office to get my cell phone. It was a voice stream cell phone at the time. At that time, cell phones were just that, cell phones. They didn't have cameras on them. They weren't smartphones. It was a cell phone. And I worked on the north side of the building, and by the time I got to my office and walked around, the north side of the building was empty. Everyone had gone out. By the way, no alarms, no public address announcements. Everyone just knew to get the hell out of there. I walked around to the east side, and again, it was empty except for one person, one of my consultants, John Labriola, who went down the stairs with me. And I'll tell you more about John a little bit later. We get into the staircase, and now naturally there's 71 floors below us, and there's about almost 20 floors above us, which are all evacuating, and there's only 3 emergency staircases. You get in the emergency staircase, and nothing happens. You're standing there. I would say that I don't know exact time-wise, et cetera. I would say in about 10 minutes, there was, maybe I got down 5 to 10 floors. That was about it. The other thing which was very nice to know, in an emergency like that, there was virtually no panic in the emergency staircases. Everyone was orderly. Everyone was calm. Occasionally, someone would get a little upset, and everyone around them would say, "It's okay, calm down, we're all going to get out." We started going down, and as I mentioned before, John Labriola, one of my consultants, all of a sudden he realized that he was a photographer as a hobby, and he had his digital camera with him. And he started taking pictures inside the World Trade Center, which were probably the only recordings of what was going on inside the staircases. and more about that later too. We go down, and it takes us a while, and all of a sudden we hear a big whamp, and that was Tower 2 being hit. Somewhere, someone got some notification on some electronics that said it was another plane, and we knew that at that time it was a terrorist attack. We had not known before that. We also had not known the extent of the size of the plane that had hit us. As we started going down, all of a sudden, again, we hadn't gotten down that far, and all of a sudden there's a call from above. Everyone moved to the right. And at that point in time, there were people escorting people from the high 80s, burn victims that had gotten burned from the initial attack on the building. And everyone again moved to the right very calmly and let these people pass. It was very solemn at that point in time. We go down, and about the time I got to the 40th or 45th floor, I was able to get signal on my phone. And I called home to my wife, Zena, and said, I'm okay, I'm in the building, I'll let you know when I get out. Well, that was a relief to her, because about 10 minutes after the plane had hit, my wife got a call from a friend of mine saying, is Gary okay? And she said, what do you mean, is Gary okay? He said, didn't you hear about the plane hitting the World Trade Center? She said, no. Now, can you imagine what she went through turning on the TV and trying to count the floors as to where the plane hit, knowing I worked on 71, which is pretty high, and she's trying to count the floors to see where I was. Imagine what she felt like. Because like I said, for the most part, this was a family day. This was not only impacted me, it impacted my entire family. We go down a little bit further, and I'd say around the 40th or 35th floor, all of a sudden there's another call comes out. Everyone moved to the right. At that point in time, you had firemen coming up the building as we're going down. And again, I'll mention John Labriola. He took a picture of one of the firemen by the name of Mike Keogh that made the front page of all the New York papers either on Wednesday or Thursday of that week, and John was interviewed by GMA America on that Thursday because of the vivid picture of this young fireman coming in. I won't hold it more, but we were concerned about that and knew about that. John found out later that that fireman, a young Mike Keogh, actually survived, which made us feel pretty good. You go on down, and again, it's taking you're going very slowly down the stairs. Round about the 20th floor, all of a sudden there's water on the stairs. And I bent down. I was very fastidious with my clothes, and I rolled up my pantsuit so I wouldn't get my pants all wet, and continued on down. Finally, get down to the ground floor, which was the plaza level of the World Trade Center where they had the big globe. And I was taking the east stairways, so we opened up right into the plaza. Well, the plaza looked like a scene from Saving Private Ryan. Between the debris, and there was some of the remains of the jumpers in the plaza. It was a horrid sight. You didn't spend time gazing at it, and you came around, and then we walked down an escalator down to the concourse level. Down at the concourse level, there was an inch or two of water throughout the whole place, and all the first responders you could ever think of were there helping people to get out. You had the NYPD, the FDNY, FBI, ATF, because they all had offices in adjoining buildings, all telling you, okay, walk fast, walk fast, walk fast, and led us all the way through over to Church Street. We were over by West Street, led us over to the east side, And we emptied up, went up an escalator right next to the Borders bookstore and emptied out on Church Street by Church and Fulton, if anyone knows that information. I stopped there and ran into one of the fellows that worked for me, who hadn't come down the stairs with me, but had come down the stairs before, a fellow by the name of Steve Worsthorn. Steve was 6'7" or 6'8", weighed about 275, 300, so he wasn't hard to find in a crowd. So I stop at Fulton Street, and I'm in between St. Paul's Cemetery and 195 Broadway. Look up at the towers. I talked to Steve and said, yeah, probably take us about a month or two before we get back in. Who was to think it's going to fall? About that time, I called my wife. I said, I'm out. Everything's okay. Yeah, I'm going to try to get back home. And please give Steve's wife a call. Let him know that he's out too, because not that many people had cell phones back then. I turn around, we walk, and I get up to Broadway, and I go 1 block up Broadway down to the bottom of City Hall Park, at which point in time Tower 2 collapses. So it took me almost an hour to get out of Tower 1. Tower 2 collapses, and you look down Broadway, and it was a scene out of Godzilla, as people are just running from their lives from this big dust storm that was coming. I got caught by the edge of the dust storm as we continued up Broadway. Went up Broadway, got to just about Union Square, which is about 14th Street in New York City. We were walking towards the Penn Station to try to catch a train back to New Jersey. And just about the time we got to Fulton Street, Tower 1 collapsed. And that, again, put a little pit in your stomach, to see that. When you worked there, you were extremely proud of working in the Twin Towers. It was just something. It was such an icon in New York. We continued on from Union Square, and we get to Penn Station, and look up at the bulletin board there, and sure enough, there's a train leaving in about 10 minutes. So we go over to the newsstand, grab a bottle of water, and drink up. All of a sudden, they evacuate Penn Station. Okay, now what do you got to do? So we head over to West Street and started walking up, and we got to 39th Street, which is where they have a ferry terminal. There were thousands and thousands of people at that ferry terminal. I think all of central New York had, central Manhattan had gravitated over there. Again, pretty orderly. Oh, by the way, there's no cell phone service at that time. So I could not call back to my wife. My wife couldn't call me. All she knows is that I called her about a few minutes before Tower 2 collapsed. Where was I? In her mind, I could have been right next to Tower 2. She doesn't know. She doesn't know if I'm alive or if I'm dead. And that's what she had to go through the rest of the day with. In fact, what ended up happening was that after about an hour or two of not hearing from me, she went to the school and picked up the kids. She wanted the kids with her because she didn't know if I was dead or alive. So when I say that, it impacted me, it impacted the entire family. So we continue on. It probably took an hour or two. I, didn't clock everything that happened that day, but it probably took about an hour or two to get your ferry over to New Jersey. And the ferry took us over to Hoboken, New Jersey. As we get off the ferry, and I was with my buddy Steve, all of a sudden the call comes out, anyone here from the World Trade Center? We said, oh boy, we're going to get special treatment. And they said, yeah. They said, head this way. Yeah. Remember when I said I stopped down and rolled up the pants legs of my suit? Well, They took us over and they put us in front of a fire truck and then sprayed us down because they were concerned, since we were at the World Trade Center, that we had carcinogens all over us. So here, well, whatever. They also, the emergency had set up a triage there. They took all our name information, took our vitals, etc., and then released us. So now we're in Hoboken, still trying to find a way to get to Princeton, New Jersey. They had trains set up that we got on the train from Hoboken and took us to Broad Street, Newark, where they had buses waiting for us. And then we took a bus from Broad Street, Newark, over to Penn Station, Trenton, to catch the Northeast Corridor trains, the New Jersey Transit trains. We weren't there long, and I guess they pulled the train out of the yards, and we were able to get on a local train headed back to Princeton. And Steve and I are just standing, there were a lot of people sitting, and we're just sort of standing in the vestibule there of the train. And everyone around us is talking, and they're saying, you know, I was here, I was there, and all of a sudden someone asked you, where were you? We said, 71st floor, and they went quiet. There was no other sound. Again, around this time, it's got to be about, 4:30, 5 o'clock. I don't remember the exact times. My wife hasn't heard from me since I got out of the tower, and I had no way of communicating with her. We get to Princeton Junction, and Steve lived about 10 miles on the other side of Princeton Junction. And like I said, I'm always only 3/4 of a mile away. I can walk, but Steve offered to drive me home. So he drives me home. And by the way, I might get a little emotional, so don't worry about it. He drives me home, and he pulls into my driveway. My daughter had been waiting outside. She calls for my wife and my son, and they all come out. And we had the best hug, the best family hug that you could possibly have. And I turn around to look at this big hulk of a man who's sitting in his driver's seat, Steve, and I can see tears coming down his eyes. Like I said, it affects the whole family. To this day, I remember everything that happened that day. I did not write down notes for this talk. It's all there. It's embedded in my memory. I have a lapel pin up here on that I've worn with every suit and every sport jacket in the past 22 years. It's a symbol of the World Trade Center. In my study at home, I have 6 pictures on the wall, framed pictures of the wall, of the Twin Towers and the World Trade Center. I remember it always. My son, who's standing in the back of the auditorium, doesn't admit it, but he was impacted too, but he doesn't show it too much. My daughter, she was really impacted. She had had several visits to the World Trade Center, and she had always envisioned herself working at the World Trade Center. That was her goal. And she had visited me on Daughter's Day and had been to the tops and the bottoms of both Twin Towers, etc. So she knew everything there. She was for about a year, she would make all sorts of drawings of the Twin Towers. She was really pissed when they didn't build 2 new Twin Towers. Like myself, she wanted 2 new Twin Towers 10 stories higher. At her request, we ended up putting a mural of wallpaper in her bedroom. Floor to ceiling, wall to wall. It was a scene of the New York skyline at night with the Twin Towers. And that mural was in her room when we sold the house in 2016. My daughter is now 33 years old, married with 3 kids. In her house, she has lots of photos of family and her 3 children. She also has, when you walk in from the garage, 3 framed photographs on the wall. Two are scenes of the New York skyline with the World Trade Center, one at daytime and one at night. And then the third one, which is kind of moving. It's a picture of a flag with a pocket watch on it. And the pocket watch time is set to 9/11. So just to let you know, how does it impact people? Last but not least is, how did it impact my wife? Well, September 11, 9/11, happens to be her birthday. And she says, and I'm very grateful for it, she says that I'm the best birthday present she ever had when I came home. To this day, we typically, by the way, I had to ask her permission to make this talk because it does impact us all. And to this day, I took 9/11 off from work all the time, and we would get away from the media, and we would go out, play golf, we would take a ride somewhere, we'd take long walks, but we did not have the media. Did not need the reminder of what happened that day. You know, I will never forget the 77 fellow Port Authority employees who lost their lives that day. There's two in particular. I knew about half of them that died that day, but there's two in particular that touched me. One was Myrna Maldonado, who, when you first start a job, you have someone that's there to help you. And this was Myrna. She was a clerk, and she actually had sat right near me, and she would walk me through getting acquainted and whatnot. And I had known Myrna the whole time. I started there in 1995, so I knew her up until 2001. Myrna happened to be a smoker, and she was down on a smoke break, and she happened to be in an elevator heading back to work when the plane hit, and the jet fuel came down the elevator shafts and exploded, and she lost her life. The other is a fellow by the name of John Fisher. He was 46 or 47 years old. He had actually worked for me for a while. He wasn't working for me at the time. And he was in a Port Authority car heading out to the Staten Island bridges when the plane hit. He saw it, and he turned around and came back into the building, because one of the major projects that we had was that we built an operations control center in the B1 level of Tower 2. And that, down there, we had all the CCTV cameras came in, all the controls for all the systems in the buildings came in there, and even the emergency elevator buttons that you press, that's where they were answered. So since John had participated with us in putting together that operations control center, he felt he could be of help down there, and that's where he was. And of course, Tower 2 was the first one that fell. Like I said, he was 46, 47 years old. He had just gone through a divorce, and he had 7 children. So those are the memories that I have from that day. Those are the memories that my family has. And at this point in time, I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody might have that I might have information on. Anybody with questions? If not, I thank you once again. I thank you for attending. I thank you for keeping the memory alive.
Okay. I want to thank Gary for that wonderful story. It's heartbreaking, but at the same time, it's living. It's what we've been through. At this time, I'm going to do, while the Suntones are getting together, I want to do my thank yous for all the people who have helped make this program possible. I want to thanks to Amanda and the staff and crew of Lifestyles, their technical crew, and everyone else for all of their support. To our participants, to Sam Watkins, Gary Hundermark, our keynote speaker, Elizabeth Goriziak, for her beautiful voice, for Fireman Dave Griffith, and for Elizabeth and her wonderful her Suntone singers. Special thanks to Donna Lewis for her creativity and support, and the DuPont's, Elizabeth DuPont's Suntones are going to sing several pieces for us. At the end, we are going to have taps. Ruben Ariel and Larry Hyatt are going to be our tap players. And as always, we are so grateful to all of the Sun City veterans who take part in our program every year, the Color Guard, the Buglers, the Marchers, and all of its members for their dedication to this project. And now I'd like to introduce Elizabeth DuPont and the Suntones.
From the mountains no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. God bless the USA. God bless the
Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have taps. We have two wonderful buglers, and at the end, the program will have ended. Thank you all for being here. Thank you so much for coming. We hope that you will continue to come back. And again, if you get the opportunity, please go by and check out the memorial that's in front of the Pearisburg Center. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, Meyer.